Marty. I use they, them pronouns.
And I'm Elliot.
And today I'm going to teach you and Elliot how to fry eggplant. Alright, so you can use fried eggplant to make a whole bunch of different recipes. We're going to be making an eggplant parm later, which is why Elliot's part of this video actually, is that they had asked me to teach them how to make eggplant parmesan, which is one of my favorite recipes as well. But first thing you're going to want to do is wash off your eggplant, which I've already done. The second is we're going to slice it up, and first thing I'm going to do for that is I'm going to get this green bit off the end. You have any questions so far?
Nope.
Cool. Just checking. But yeah, once you take the leaves off, you can see that it actually goes down not nearly as far as it looks. Then we're going to slice it all the way down, and we're going to do about 1/4 inch slices. So if you're looking at a ruler, 1/4 inch, if you need to know how thick that is, it's probably like maybe 2 or 3 times the width of the thick part of your knife. You want to give it a try, or you want me to teach you first?
Why don't you demonstrate?
Alright. So I'm going to cut the green part off at the end. We're not going to use the nub. And I'm going to do about 1/4 inch. So if you want to come closer, I can show you. Alright, so yeah, just about that much. And there's going to be a couple different steps once we start actually frying the eggplant. And I'll explain a little more of that once we get there. But the reason I'm doing it more on the thin side is because when we're frying it, we want the eggplant to cook. We don't want to just burn the outside. And if it's too thick, it's not going to do that very well. You want to give it a try?
Yeah.
Alright. It's all of you.
What are some other recipes with eggplant?
That's a little thick.
Oh.
Sorry.
Well,
there you go. So some
everything's a learning experience.
So some other recipes with eggplant. One of my favorites is putting it on pizza. When we made pizza, I talked about my favorite kind is ricotta and eggplant on top. You can pretty much eat it as is. You can put it in subs. I'm Italian. I don't eat meat, and a lot of Italian food has meat in it, so I tend to use eggplant, where I would use like either meatballs or chicken, stuff like that, which parmesan is usually a chicken recipe, and we'll talk about that a little more later. But I pretty much use it anywhere in Italian food that I would normally use, either like beef or chicken or veal. How you doing?
I'm going. This is happening.
Good. Yeah, they don't have to be perfectly even too. That you can have one side a little thicker than the other. Usually when I'm slicing it, I end up accidentally doing the top thicker and then kind of getting narrower and narrower as I'm going down, just because, you know, the curve of the eggplant and the way that it leans once you're putting pressure on it makes it a little wobbly in that way, but it's fine. It doesn't have to be too precise. You really just don't want to have it be too thick, or it'll end up raw and a little soggy. You doing great?
And we cut the whole thing.
Yep. So yeah, the other thing to keep in mind is if you're going to use fried eggplant for a recipe like eggplant parmesan, one eggplant makes a surprisingly large amount of eggplant slices, especially when you're getting down to that like 1/4 inch size. So, you know, I've put together like a parmesan before and had like close to half my eggplant left over at the end.
Yeah.
You want me to take over?
I'm not good at cutting the ends of things very much.
It's fair, no one is. Me either. Alright, so yeah, once you get to the end, it's going to be kind of hard to get in there without cutting your fingers, so I'm actually going to switch the angle a little bit and come from the other side. And yeah, I can feel that coming through a little, so I'm going to be really careful with where I'm placing my fingers. And this is especially where, you know, you don't have to be too picky about the size. That whenever I fry things, it's usually a learning curve, even on that day, for how hot the oil is and how long to keep them in the oil. So I tend to use those like kind of, for lack of a better word, ugly little end pieces as my practice ones before I get going with the ones that I want to look pretty, like these nice ones that Elliot made before. Very good. Very proud of you. All right, so we're going to set up some stations, and we'll tell you more about those in a minute. Alright, so once you have your eggplant sliced up, there's going to be a couple different steps that you go through before you get it even in the oil. At this point, too, if you're going to be saving your eggplant for more than like a day or two before freezing it or cooking it off, one thing that you can do to get some moisture out of it so it doesn't get as soggy is sprinkle some salt and leave it for like an hour. So I would just take the slices, line them up on a pan, line them up on a plate, however they fit, sprinkle a little bit of salt on each of them, and then when you come back after that hour, there's going to be little droplets of the water that was in the eggplant on top, and you can just wipe them off and start over with whatever we're doing. But we're going to use these probably in like the next 12-ish hours anyway, and what we don't use will freeze, so that's fine. Alright, so when you're frying, you're going to follow basic rule of wet, dry, with whatever you're frying. So our eggplant is already wet. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to put it in dry, which is our flour. Then, once we're all set with that, we're going to put it in our egg, which is wet again. And then after that, we're going to put it in our breadcrumbs, which is the final dry. So, before we get started on that, we've got our flour already. For your eggs, what you're going to do is you can take like 3-4 eggs, depending on how much eggplant you have. I always make too little and then I end up having to make more afterwards, and you know, no biggie. But we're just going to, almost like if we were making scrambled eggs, we're going to crack them into the bowl and then mix them all up. Do you have any questions yet?
Nope.
Cool.
I love scrambled eggs.
I love scrambled eggs too, man. Another meat-free breakfast favorite of mine. I don't like a fried egg kick lately though.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not really a particular reason for it. It's more just that I'm lazy and I don't like to clean up a bowl from scrambling eggs.
Fair.
If you want to mix that together, I'm going to clean up the stovetop a little bit. Whoop.
Are we
Some
good?
pretty good eggs. Yeah. There's some pretty good eggs. Alright.
You need the fork.
You can leave it in there for now. So for your breadcrumbs come in kind of two basic flavor palettes, combinations of spices, shape of crumbs, everything, and that's panko and Italian style. These are Italian style. They are from my favorite grocery store in Massachusetts, which is Market Basket. But yeah, you can use Italian style for anything that you want to have that flavor profile. Like we're using this for eggplant parmesan, so I'm going to use it for that. It's basically pretty similar to panko, but they have some extra herbs in it, so like you can even see from above that, you know, there's some nice seasoning in there already. And then panko is a little more plain. Panko is more if you were doing something where the flavor wasn't based on like that aspect itself as much. So in like Asian food, if you were doing like tempura, you would use panko breadcrumbs. So they're both good. There's benefits to both. We're gonna use this one because I like this one, and we are just gonna put a whole bunch on that plate. And again, you're not locked into these amounts. You can always add more if you want to. All right, you ready?
Yes.
All right. So heads up, your hands are going to get pretty gross during this. If you have not washed your hands yet, you should probably wash them now. I'm going to take my watch off because I don't want my watch to get gross either. If you want to put on an apron, you can too. Or you can wait. You're very excited about the apron.
Be prepared.
Be prepared. Alright. I always have the tie-dye one. This feels so different.
I usually never wear an apron because I am a heathen.
That's fair. Alright, so we're going to take our eggplant slices, go right in the flour.
Ooh.
And again, you want to get it nice and covered. It's better to do a little too much than too little, because then we're going to tap it off a little bit. So yeah, you can see like how it's even covering the purple edge. Then we're going to dunk it in that bowl. And when I do the eggs, I've experimented a little bit with doing like a wider bowl, with doing a deeper bowl like that. The deeper bowl works a little better for me, especially when I'm trying to take my time. So I can kind of use that fork to get it back out.
Ooh.
So yeah, nice and wet. Then I'm just gonna go straight into my breadcrumbs. And this is where your hands are gonna get kind of gross. A lot of people when they're frying stuff do like a dry hand and a wet hand so you don't get like, you know, that buildup of egg and breadcrumbs and everything on your hand, but honestly, you're gonna get messy. Embrace it.
My turn!
Yeah, do it.
Oh, I'm gonna pick this piece. Smack it around.
Mm-hmm.
Get it all powdery. Is that approved?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why not?
I don't know. And then, oof, I'm gonna stab it. Oh no.
It's fine. It's legit a learning curve.
Whoop. And we're gonna season it with breadcrumbs.
You're doing a great job. That is plenty of breadcrumbs.
Are you sure?
I'm sure that's plenty
Okay.
of breadcrumbs.
Okay.
Alright, I'm gonna give it a try.
You viewers at home did not miss it. I did a triumphant fist bump. There.
I'm glad you shared that request.
Replay. Sports are canceled. Okay.
Sports are canceled. Everything's canceled.
Temporarily.
Postponed is a nicer way. I was talking to my mom via text this morning, keeping tabs on 2 separate states in this current events. I don't know if y'all heard there's a pandemic, and it's been interesting because Massachusetts is at a very different point from Minnesota right now. No offense to my Massachusetts friends, but y'all are not being as careful as you should be. And I guess the current proposed date of everything starting back up in Massachusetts is May 18th, and my mom asked when ours was. And I said, you know, Minnesota's basically living like, we'll see, in the mom sense of we'll see. I have to think about it.
Massage it?
You can. You don't have to. That's you know what? That's fine. That's good enough.
Okay. Hey, I've never made this before. I'm just trying my best.
I know, you're doing a very good job.
Is that too much egg?
No,
Oh,
I think
no.
maybe it didn't sit in the egg long enough, but that's okay.
Oh.
It's good. You don't want to put it back in the egg once it has its
That's what I
breadcrumbs.
figured. Well, I guess we have to start over. I
We
really
only have one eggplant.
Oh no.
It's good. You're doing a fine job. You want me to help?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd probably just use my hands if I.
You good? That's fine. I'm gonna add some more breadcrumbs to our plate because I think we're losing a lot to the stove.
Should we do all of this on camera?
We can cut it at some point. Why don't we do like one more each?
Okay.
I want to see you learn. So right in the flour. You don't have to massage it in. You can if you want, I guess. I prefer to be as quick and businesslike with my eggplant as possible. And then I think what would have made the last one a little easier is if you let it sit in the egg for just a little bit longer, because you want to make sure that the egg doesn't just like roll off of the flour. So yeah,
Fair.
perfect. And yeah, that's all about like building up those layers too. That's what it, yeah, so even like right there, I got a little bit that wasn't covered. But that's why we take our time on this step, is just to really make sure that we're getting that like layer around the eggplant, because eggplant can be kind of hard to fry. It can come out too soggy, it can come out like burnt really easily. It's a learning curve. Alright, so one more. Go, Elliot. I
I think I've only eaten eggplant like a handful of times in my life.
I've eaten it once or twice myself. It's one of my favorite foods.
Have you only eaten it twice? How do you know if it's your favorite if you only eaten it twice?
Listen, some things are just so memorable that it just sticks with you, you know?
I guess.
Eggplant's one of those. I told you I told you this story already, but I have a memory of school when I was younger, and an adult talking to all of us in the class, and she wasn't Italian, but I grew up in a really Italian part of Massachusetts, and she asked us something about like what foods we were excited for at Thanksgiving, what was coming up in like a week and a half, and one kid said, you know, like lasagna and like eggplant parm, and she was like, what? And like the rest of our class was like, yeah, checks out. So, different normals. Awesome. Alright, so we're going to do the rest of this off camera, because otherwise we're going to be here for a very long time, and we'll see you in a minute. Alright, so we've got all our eggplant slices prepared. I took a minute to clean up the stove a little bit because it's going to get messy again pretty quickly. And we're going to get started and go ahead with frying. So, you're going to want a frying pan, anything that's basically like deep enough to submerge whatever you're putting in it. And then you're going to want oil. So there's all different types of oil for cooking. There's olive oil, there's soybean oil, peanut oil, vegetable oil, everything. I like to use canola oil. And basically the reason is that it's better than the alternatives as far as like olive oil can get really expensive. There's a lot of allergens in peanut oil and soybean oil, stuff like that. And vegetable oil is like pretty unregulated as far as what actually goes into it. So canola oil is just, you know, pretty easy. You know exactly what's in it, and it's pretty cheap as well. So I'm gonna pour enough in the pan to just kind of make like maybe about like 2 or 3 times the width of a slice. So we don't want to use too much because depending on how hot it gets and if pieces of the breadcrumbs are coming off, the oil we might have to replace like halfway through. But yeah, like even that's plenty because we're gonna flip them halfway through as well. They don't have to be like completely submerged. But yeah, so what we're going to do now is we're going to turn the stove on, and at this point, if you don't have an apron, if you're wearing a shirt that you like, I would change to a shirt that you do not like, because the oil can splash up. And it's important to be careful with it too. One of my favorite things I've overheard one of my brothers say was when I was like 2 rooms over from the kitchen a couple years ago, and my 22 at the time year old brother said something to the effect of, oh my gosh, the oil's splishy splashy. So if the oil does in fact get splishy splashy, so you want to be careful. But we're going to turn that heat on like just kind of between like medium and high. So mine goes from the scale low, high, medium. We're going to go like just between medium and high, because if it's too hot, it's just going to burn everything like right away. We really want it to like take its time, but if it's too low, then it'll get soggy before it actually cooks all the way. And now we gotta wait. Any questions?
Nope.
Cool. We'll see you in a minute. Alright, so our oil is just about hot enough. You can tell because there's some bubbles that are just starting to come to the surface. Usually what I do, just to double check, is I'm going to take a little bit of this extra bit of the like egg and breadcrumb kind of mixed together, and I'm just going to plop it in. And yeah, so that's perfect. When it starts bubbling like that is when it's ready to go.
Wow.
So I'm going to kind of time.
Swimming.
It's swimming. Didn't you know the beaches are closed, little friend?
Yeah, stay safe.
Yeah. Alright, perfect. So yeah, probably gonna leave the next ones in there for a little longer, but you can even see once it's in the air, it's gonna keep cooking as long as that oil's on it. So you wanna take it out just a little bit before it's the color that you want, because it'll get darker as it's sitting. I have all the eggplant slices on this cutting board. What you're going to want to do is once you take them out of the oil, you're going to want to have a plate with some paper towels ready on it. So that way you can just stack them, move, keep going, and the paper towels will get some of that like extra oil off so they're not just sitting in like a puddle of grease. So what I usually do when I'm getting started is I pick one that's a little worse for the wear. So we're going to go with that guy. You're going to want to use tongs and not like a spoon or anything, because number one, it's going to let you keep your arm back further from the oil. I don't like to get burned. I don't like being hurt. I don't think most people do. So number one, it's going to keep you safer, and number two, it's going to give you a better grip than like a spoon or a fork would. So I'm going to take this little guy who's like, maybe one of the uglier ones.
I think the worst kind of hurt is when your heart hurts.
I'm going to keep an eye on the color of this one just a little bit. Yeah, you can always like flip them back over too. So yeah, like that's like the exact color that I want on that side. Perfect. So with doing one that like, I don't want to say I don't care about it. I care about all of you. But with doing one that is not as much like, oh, this one came out perfect, it gives me a chance to kind of time like how hot it is versus how long to leave it in. So yeah. And you can see like that does go really, really quickly. Like that goes from the right color to too dark really, really quickly. So that one's even a little darker than I want to go for. So how many do you want me to do before?
At least two more.
At least two more, alright.
I want to see it. It's like very fast.
It is very fast. And yeah, you can do all your slices ahead of time before you even start frying them. Or you can like make them and fry them in one swoop. You can do more than one in a pan. That's probably what I'll do once we get more towards the bottom. But yeah, it's really whatever you're comfortable with.
Wow.
It's very exciting.
It is very exciting. I've only used a deep fryer before. I've been very scared of like top frying. It seems very like inaccessible to me. Was that good? Was that perfect?
That one's good. That one is perfect.
Do it again.
Alright. We're working with
it
both.
Smells really good too.
Yeah.
And it smells kind of greasy, but like it smells like spicy. I mean, Italian spices.
That's the herbs.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, it definitely smells like eggplant is frying in here. Yeah, that one came out a little dark, but it's still gonna be pretty good. I'm gonna put that one in for a little longer on that side. Yeah, again, it's important to remember too that like it is gonna get darker as it's sitting there. So like you can see that one got darker after I put it down.
Can I try?
Yeah, you may.
Go
for it. No pressure.
Ooh.
You know, worst case scenario, some 3rd-degree burns never hurt anybody.
You know, emotional hurt never really heals. Physical hurt, you might have a scar or two. Just kidding. Sometimes they go hand in hand. But
yeah, that's pretty good.
Ooh. Yes. Okay.
Do you wanna talk about it, Elliot? Yeah.
We're cooking right now. Wow. Are you so skilled that you can do more than one at a time, or do you do? Is that good?
That's good. Yeah.
Can I do one more?
Yeah, you can do as many as you want. I am completely fine with just sitting here as you cook up all the eggplant. So.
Should I do more than one at a time?
You can if you want.
And I could work in a round, like a.
Yeah. Honestly, and again, like play around with what makes you happy. Play around with the timing that you want. Once we get towards the bottom, I probably will start doing like more than one pan at a time, but it can be kind of hard to keep track of like which ones you put in when once you have more than like 2 or 3 in there. Yeah, that one's really good.
Ooh, okay.
Oh my gosh, you're doing so well.
Oh my god. I'm gonna try 3 at once.
Alright. So the timing that I usually do when I do 3 is once I put in the 3rd, I flip the 1st. But and again, everything's a learning curve.
Okay.
It's okay, we have so
I
much eggplant.
scraped that one off. I scraped its skin off. Anyway, that's probably done. That was a little bit. I was emotionally caught up in how I harmed a slice of eggplant, even though it's not alive.
Listen, we've all personified food before. It's fine.
Are these good as like little snacks by themselves? Could you just munch on them if you wanted to?
You could. Sure.
Ooh, that one looks like a spider.
Ooh,
what
yeah,
happened?
because that had some extra egg on it, kind of hanging off. So that's that egg with the breadcrumbs around it.
That looks gross, honestly.
It does. It kind of looks like a calamari gone wrong, but
That's just a
I mean,
piece
you
of
can
egg.
take it off, yeah. I would take it off when it's not
No.
sloshing hot oil around.
No, that's not safe. I'm sorry. I'll wait.
Kitchen safety, kids.
That's true. I'm sorry. I got excited.
You're fine.
Oil is splish splashy.
Yeah. The oil is slishy splashy, as my brother once said. Yeah.
This is so much fun. I'm
Yeah.
feeling like very accomplished right now.
I'm very happy for you.
Here, put that one. Woo.
I love eggplant parmesan so much. When I was younger, because we had it at like every family thing, I used to call it eggplant lasagna. Because I didn't really realize that they were like two different dishes. I was just like, oh, it's Italian, alright. Like, eggplant lasagna.
Are those good still, or are those overdone? Maybe a little bit.
They're getting a little dark.
Okay.
Like this guy's perfect.
Okay.
So that one's really, really good.
Okay. Getting too excited.
That's fine.
It's like when I helped you
get
make cookies that one time. I got so excited I made the cookies too big.
Yep. We were going for little cookies. We were making these lemon drop cookies. They're amazing. But making these little cookies, it was very easy to make them too big. And
I did that a lot.
But you helped, and it was a big help, and I did really appreciate it.
It was fun. More? Yes.
That was probably good. I would get the other guy too.
That one's a little crusty. Not crusty.
A little crunchy. Crispy.
Crispy.
Crispy boy. I'm very excited that you're so excited.
This is so much fun!
It is.
Is there anything specific? I've seen videos that are not produced by you about frying a little bit, and like a lot of people go by specific temperatures. Is there a specific temperature? Maybe you have like an oil. Is there an oil thermometer? Is there? I know there's meat thermometers. There's cooking thermometers.
So there are cooking thermometers. Do I know what temperature range you should fry eggplant in? No, I'm Italian, not a cook. And but there are. That's a really good question. There are food thermometers. They're usually called like candy thermometers. Which when I use them, I usually use them in context of making like caramel or like melting chocolate to do different like fancy things with it. You probably wouldn't use it necessarily for like pan frying because the way that they work. Actually, we have one in the drawer, so while you're doing that, I'm gonna grab it.
It smells so good.
Listen, I didn't break it, but I definitely did not do it right. Here we go. Okay, ooh, that actually cracked. Interesting. Alright. So, I'm going to be very, very careful with my fingers on this. This is what a candy thermometer looks like. Or an immersion thermometer, I'm not sure exactly how you refer to it. The way that it works is it has a clip on the side, so you would clip it onto like a saucepan or any kind of deep thing, and as it's going up, it would show you the temperature range of whatever's in it. And this one actually has a key on the back that tells you more about like, you know, different candy processes have different temperature ranges. There's, you know, hard crack, soft crack, hard ball, firm ball, soft ball, da-da-da. This one actually does have a temperature range for deep frying on it too. It does not have eggplant on it specifically, but for onions, it says 375, which is the closest thing on here to eggplant. Potatoes is 350, so we'll see.
You can make onion rings too.
We can make onion rings. We have an onion. We're gonna make Italian onion rings because we don't make breadcrumbs, but alright, I'm gonna throw that out in a minute because it is broken.
Order a new one.
I think we have another one too. This is the other type of thermometer that Elliot mentioned, just to show you that it's a meat thermometer. So that one actually has a pointed tip, and what you would do with that one is if you're cooking like turkey or chicken or any kind of meat that you'd be cooking on like a grill, on a stove, in the oven, there's going to be a temperature range that you want for it to be safe to eat, especially with like chicken carries something called salmonella that people have probably heard of. And it has to be a certain temperature before it's actually able to kill those germs. So what you would do is, say you're cooking a turkey, you would, at some point in the cooking process, open the oven, using an oven mitt, you would pull it out a little bit, put that in it, and then it would rise to the temperature that it is. So you would wait to see, once it kind of settles down, where you're at. And then you'll know if you need to leave it in longer, take it out then, whatever. And most of them, including this one, do have like a little kind of range that it shows for each type of meat too. Like that says poultry, it says ham, beef, lamb, pork, like all along that vein. Yeah, we could talk about food safety sometime. I'm down for that. I don't tend to cook a lot of meat, so it's not really stuff that I have like right off the top of my head. But I make meatballs sometimes.
Yeah. So mostly just wash your hands and cook your food thoroughly.
Pretty much. I usually wear gloves when I make meatballs though too.
Mm-hmm.
That's just because I think it's yucky. But that's just me. You're doing so well, I'm so proud. Oh my gosh.
I'm having a great time.
You told me you were scared to cook with me too.
Well, I wasn't sure. You said some things about working with other people in the kitchen that I was unsure about.
Fair. I believe the phrasing, and I'll say it again, is I don't play nice with other people in the kitchen, which is usually accurate. But it's different, I think, like teaching somebody else. Because like my thing is more that I don't like cooking with other people when like we're both cooking something together, because I feel like I have to be constantly checking to make sure that they're like doing stuff right. And then like, you know, everybody likes to cook and everybody likes to put things together, and that's all good and fine. But don't tell me you know how to do stuff you don't know how to do, because I'm not going to slow down and teach you. But if the point is to teach you to do something, that's totally fine. I'm totally okay with that. But I don't tend to cook well with others when we're cooking one thing together in tandem. But you're doing a very good job. One friend in Massachusetts that we would cook together like every Tuesday because we were on the same wavelength, and it was just perfect. I actually found a picture on my phone earlier today from like one of the last recipes that we cooked together before I moved out here, which was a strawberry upside down cake, which was definitely not the prettiest thing I've ever made, but it was really, really tasty.
What are these?
That was just extra egg and breadcrumb. So I wasn't sure if I was going to have to check it again if the temperature wasn't right.
Little nuggets.
Little nuggets. If you want to make a fried nugget, you're more than welcome to.
Let's do it.
Alright, I would flatten it out a little bit.
Let's take these out first.
Breadcrumb patty.
Sounds a little crusty. Okay. A tasty snack for when you're done.
Sure.
I'm gonna eat this. I want to try it.
Alright. Forbidden dumpling. I mean, it's not the grossest thing, it's just definitely, you know. To each their own.
Let's try it. I love trying new things. Ooh! Swishy splashy.
That is why you want to be careful. A quick anecdote about when I was caught off guard by the splishy splashy. When I was living in the house that I called the music house before, in Massachusetts, I lived with a bunch of people who did music, and they were working on some stuff in the basement. I didn't realize they were recording. I was making eggplant upstairs, and I dropped something that splashed up and hit me in the arm, and I yelled very loudly and angrily, and they caught it on their recording. So, my bad. But yeah, awesome. So I'm going to move this oil to the back burner. And you want to be really, really careful because that oil is still super, super hot. Like, I know somebody who had to get skin grafts on their hand hot. So you're going to want to let that sit and cool down before you do anything to it. Once it does cool down, I would recommend putting it in the trash, not down your drain, because it can clog up your drain a little bit, especially if there is like little pieces of breadcrumb and stuff in it. But again, you want it to completely cool, especially if you're going to put it in your trash can, because it's going to just melt straight through the trash bag as well.
It's helpful to put it in an old glass jar or like a pop can if you can fit it in there. Preferably some sort of glass jar that you've used or is in the recycling. You can just go whoop.
That's a really good tip. I like that tip.
Keep it out of the drain because it'll clog.
Yeah. I'm gonna keep that tip in mind. I like that tip. Yeah, alright, so that is our entire eggplant. We're gonna use it later on to make eggplant parm. Again, you can pretty much use it like anywhere you would use other meat in Italian cooking. So, you know, eggplant parmigiana, you can make like eggplant burgers with it. You can put it on pizza. But yeah, for now, that is how you fry an eggplant.
With Elliot!
With Elliot.